it's not just the president who should be criminally responsible for whether genocide or crimes against humanity. It should also be the commanders on the field. Why? Because they're the ones who are executing. They're the ones who are directly in the field with the officers under them. So we also want to place them as an example, not just the president.
Talking about the accusation of getting funds, we also been accused of getting funds from foreign countries, and we actually are operating under the foundation. So we are trying our best to work with also our partner in the local communities to do things transparency, like accounting, management, and so we were subject to auditing all the times, and we were presenting our report throughout the system, so we were not hiding anything, and we also trying to deliver more openness. I mean, of course, some wording maybe not say it's clearly, but it's allow human rights work. We can get still getting allowed to do so. But we are also worried about the trend of having regulations like in Cambodia or in other countries where they're regulating the more difficulty for the foreign fund to come to the country. So just have to be careful of, we should not be an only one who is receiving funds, so there should be a kind of different foundation, organization that actually doing the same thing, multiple agency that could help it. So far we safe, and it's very difficult to get also fundraising in on the cost that we are working in at home. But luckily that I have to say that we have quite active embassy in Bangkok. I think Bangkok Post is quite interesting, expensive, and people want to come. So we have, so that means we have to work with embassies, ambassador, embassy, the human rights officer, so to have relationship with them by going to their event. They're invited to our event, and all of this is a kind of, the military is worried about we accessing to international community. So we turn it around of taking selfie with ambassador to taking a lot of attention from international community. So that works sometime until now, but I'm not sure about the future.
Gilbert, what is the reaction of the general public about your president's drug eradication program?
I think it's a paradox now. I think they still support, a majority of Filipinos still support Duterte as president, but I think there's a starting majority now who realize that there is something wrong with these extrajudicial killings without due process. In fact, for me, it's very personal, because there's this misconception now in the Philippines that if you're defending those who are drug suspects, you're actually defending criminals, which is really a misconception, because there's a constitutional presumption of innocence. And for me, it's very personal, because my father was a lawyer who was actually stabbed to death by supposedly a drug suspect. So I just tell them that, and actually it refreshes their minds that there's actually a constitutional presumption of innocence.
But still there is a support to the president.
Yes, there's still support for the president. It will really be tested during the midterm elections next May of 2019.
No, it's very similar to Sri Lankan perspective, because during the war time, during the conflict time, everybody blessed Mahinda Rajapaksa, and now we are in a chaos because of that. Right. I think you will also face the same consequences in future.
Yeah. Jamie?
As a lawyer in Scotland, a lawyer in the UK, we think it's hard to defend human rights, and obviously very easy for us to forget the challenges that you face in your respective countries. What can professional bodies like the Law Society of Scotland, the Law Society of England, what can we be doing back home to help you in your respective countries as lawyers, because they all strike me first and foremost as lawyers and not as activists who happen to be lawyers. So as fellow professionals, what can we do? It strikes me that journalists are very good working across borders and speaking out on behalf of other journalists, but I think in the legal profession we probably don't do it well enough. So what can I take back to my own professional body back in Scotland to help me on the ground?
Yeah, when I was arrested, when I was arrested and charged, and also my colleague, N. Surendran, he has 2 sedition charges, in fact, for something he said in the course of defending his client. So when both of us were charged, and then of course there's a rash of sedition charges, various international organizations came up in support, released statements, including the various bars around the world. The Law Society released a statement on my case, Canada, etc., etc. And all these things, it works. It sort of adds up. And I think the Law Society also sent a letter to the Malaysian Prime Minister. So, at the end of the day, all governments, they want some form of legitimacy. They crave a bit of, that they want to be accepted by others. And of course, if lawyers association around the world condemns their action, then they would also be quite careful in terms of proceeding. So hence, for my case, they never really pursued it aggressively. So, and when we filed challenges, on the constitutionality of the Sedition Act, they also, they were quite, they were also taken aback. And even though it took, several applications and a change in government, but they didn't really pursue it as aggressively as, compared to other people. But in situation in Thailand might be different because of the military government. So, yeah.
I just have a suggestion that work with the embassy in your country. That's also a really direct message. So, but of course, sometimes it's also our part. Our story it not get to you in time or it's much later because of the freedoms and also language barrier. So we still also want to request an outreach. So it's me, your friends, so keep us contact and working directly with the embassy, like in the country like Thailand, they have very big soft first, they want to look good. So embassy has a direct contact to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and on human rights issues, Ministry of Foreign Affairs to have something to say with the military, and they sort of listening. That's why my case is actually dropped.
I agree with Eric that indeed the bar associations can actually remind them to still uphold the rule of law. But I'd like to place it in the context in the Philippines, wherein there's this misconception that's being peddled by the administration that human rights is merely a Western construct. And you know how we can destroy it? If Asian governments and Asian bar associations can actually remind the government that it's not a Western construct. We belong to an Asian civilization. And it has been there. We're all human beings, whether from west, east, north, or south. So I think Asian bar societies, law societies, they can fulfill that great role of reminding our government that human rights are universal rights.
I think that's an excellent point you raise, Jamie, and it's something that we should all take on notice, that there should be greater collaboration as a profession that goes across the borders where there is a common interest, if not for the individuals, for the chance to be able to impact beyond our own immediate sphere. Are there any other questions for the panelists? Yeah.
This is not a question but a reminder that for the litigants and litigators and all of us, we need self-care, we need security training, and we need our family at the end of the day. They are our support. And so I think who needs us? The people. So we need to move and pursue our cause.
No, I think that's such an important point, and I think without that support structure and that network behind each of us, then the work would not be done, because then we would also be ineffective. On that note, I'm interested to the panelists, is there a point where you say to yourselves, look, I'm not sure I can keep going with this, I'm not sure it's worth the cost. Have you considered that, and what would be the answer to that question?
Curiously enough, in 2011, I thought I'm going to stop with human rights work. Actually, at some point, I thought I'm going to die, because we actually adopted this case, the Maguindanao massacre case, where 58 people, including 32 journalists, were killed in one swoop. And the accused there, or the suspected perpetrators, are actually part of a warlord clan in the deep south of the Philippines. And there have been some reports that they actually killed or ordered the killing of opposing lawyers. So at some point in 2010, when we actually got that case, I thought I was not going to go beyond 2010. But I think like what Gary earlier shared, it's like, I'm not going to do this anymore, but you still do it over the years, and it's now 2018.
I just have to give a compliment to whoever organized these 2 days and 4 days. I think I went to many conferences, and I think this Hong Kong experience is the best for me, because we have friendship, we have fun, we're talking the same language, limitation, and we share. And I did not go to drink with Masha, but I'm with you when you're drinking. I'm with you when you're dancing. I know friends here a lot, and I appreciate it.
It's very kind of you to say, thank you. No, but it is only this way because everyone has participated and contributed as well. And Lindsay in the room knows the history of why we used the name symposium rather than conference. If you do travel overseas for a conference, if any of you have had the privilege to do this, it's often quite passive. You've got a number of experts, you've got panels, and they're delivering information to you. But we deliberately designed this to be very interactive so we could all share from our experiences, because each of us alone is not a single expert, but together we are an enormous amount of expertise. So it's a very good point that you raised, Mary. Thank you. We do have one final subject this afternoon about the Torture Rehabilitation Working Group that we do want to get a chance to look at. But before we do move on to that, were there any other comments or questions in relation to this particular topic about the cost of being a litigator in human rights that anyone wants to raise? Pia.
It's something which has been going through my mind, really, for a very long time, but, I don't often voice it when I'm in Hong Kong because of the political context that we operate in. But, our mandate actually at Justice Centre is to assist torture victims in Hong Kong. So that, all the torture victims that we work with are coming from countries outside of Hong Kong, and Hong Kong is part of China. We're a special administrative region but we are still part of China. So I think that's been something which it's really played on my mind, because we should be open for anyone to come to our office and say, I have been tortured, whether they were tortured in Hong Kong itself, whether they were tortured in the mainland, whether they were tortured anywhere in the world, and they're not. They're not coming to us, and we have a serious concern about safety, because we've had recent situations of people disappearing and reappearing in the mainland, and it was a consideration when we did a recent project on the UPR, because it was looking at the human rights situation in Hong Kong, but we, as an office, we had to do an extensive security check because we were concerned about what will this mean? Because right now we're considered to be we are a human rights organisation, but for the majority of people, they think we're a refugee organisation, and so we don't deal with human rights more broadly. But we do. We are focused on upholding the rule of law. So it's really to get your advice, actually, because even when staff travel to mainland China for holidays, we we say to staff, we have to always be careful when we cross the border. So, but should we be doing more? Because it plays on my mind that we aren't having victims of torture come to us. And there is another organisation who are anonymous, actually, and who we really had hoped could come and be here, who do work with victims of torture from the mainland, but they couldn't come because of security issues. So really it's to ask, your professional advice, because you're all working in very challenging contexts, and it's something that we haven't raised at all in the last 4 days. But I feel that if we didn't raise it, then it would actually, it's a disservice to torture victims who are here. Yeah.
Just a suggestion. Because I think the situation like that, with a lot of security concern and unaccepted civil society in that context of torture victim in China context, I think the best way is to get local Chinese friends, like we have paralegal volunteer, to do something very quietly, very delicately, before actually doing something open or publicly. And the local context is very important in that sense. And that what I can suggest, and it's something I think is the must. You need to do it, but in what way and how you're going to enter into that area. And it's going to be, again, you want to stop, but you cannot stop.
I think donning the hat of an academic, and since Justice Center is actually a human rights organization, yes, I think you do have a jurisdiction on torture even happening outside of Hong Kong and even outside of China. Since in any case, torture is actually an international crime, and it should be subject to universal jurisdiction. So yes, it actually reinforces the thought that torture in any place will actually affect human rights in other jurisdictions.
I would agree with that we should at some point get more locals to be part of this initiative, because as foreigners you have limitations, because you do the wrong thing, and especially if it's a sensitive government, very, very quickly you just find yourself your visa being cancelled. I think in Malaysia and also Philippines and Thailand, I think it's a bit more different because we are citizens there. And I think that, for me at least, I probably can't speak for the rest of them, because in Malaysia, my organization, we have developed some sort of a reputation, and that, we have supporters, and we have a support system, so very senior lawyers are working with us, and we are, basically, I wouldn't say that we are untouchable, just that we are at a position that is more trouble to cause trouble for us, because anyway we are still a minor annoyance. If they were to shut us down, or if they were to arrest us or charge us, it basically costs them more trouble in the long term. But it's different from you guys. So yeah, that's the best advice I can give. And of course, as an expert, can probably do more research rather than things that actually touch on them directly. And of course, security issues. There are ways to minimize security issues. There are, get do proper assessment. But at the end of the day, I think there's really nothing you can do if they want to come and get you, because they're the state. You have the moral high ground. Whatever that you do is transparent, it's ethical, it's proper, it's international standards. That's your protection, really, essentially. So whenever I get arrested or checked, I'm not saying it happens all the time, but I'm fine with whatever work that I do, whatever feedbacks I get, whatever attacks that I get, for me just, doesn't really matter. I just ignore it because, I have the moral high ground.
Just one more suggestion. So you don't limit torture victims center or something. You just said mindfulness, something like you come getting people in to do meditation, yoga, or massage, and then gradually you're just getting friends who can trust, and they trust you, and then start working with the torture victims.
Or single malt whiskey, that would do.
Speak easy. Well, please join me in thanking my fellow panelists, Mary, Gilbert and Eric, and for the work that they do. Incredible. Thank you. Okay, thank you everyone. So we're moving on to the final item for the symposium. And as Lisa mentioned, this is really a symposium that we designed to be participant-driven and delegates-driven. And we have been privileged to hear a wealth of conversations and input, but we really want to now turn back to the participants and look at how we can translate these conversations into something a little bit more concrete. And what that really means for us is there are two things we wanted to come out of this weekend. One of it is, as May termed it, friendships, alliances, networks, practical networks in Hong Kong as well as in the wider region. But the second thing is we want to think about the practical actions that we can take and can commit to. But rather than thinking in aspirational terms, I really want us to note down and think, coming out of all these conversations, what are the resources we have in the region, be it conventions, regional, international, be it bodies and alliances already in place, be it resources as well that we haven't quite tapped into that we could be sharing. And we are coming up with one aim that is achievable for all of us to commit to within a year. So I know some of the international delegates have to pop off now to the airport, but with those who are able to remain and who are able to contribute, we would be very glad for this discussion to take shape, so we can actually net out something quite concrete. And obviously the participants, the networks that will derive from this will be shared, but in terms of this conversation, if we could gather together and in groups and have that conversation and we'll draw together after about 20 minutes to talk this through. Well, given that everyone is departing now, perhaps we should have 10 minutes of just actually saying goodbye and putting some name cards and all that before we come back together.
Big group of us leaving, so nice to meet all of you. Thank you so much. Like we're all heading to the airport, sorry for the distraction.
So since everyone does have to rush off to the airport, we will email everyone who has been here this weekend and set out just a basic working proposal of what an alliance could look like, building on what there is in the region. We do value everyone's input this weekend, and thank you very much for being here. I want people to have a chance to say their goodbyes and shake hands if you haven't met everyone you want to meet. So this is the last moment to do that, and there are evaluation sheets near the lift as well, which we would be very glad for you to fill out on the way out. But thank you once again, and we hope this will become something practical and fruitful coming out of this weekend.
everybody, can I just stop everybody talking? So we did not expect that. That's why it was not planned that there was going to be an exodus of people. But we actually, there are still a good number of us here, and we don't want to miss this opportunity because we are in the same room, and we really don't, it sort of feels a bit odd to kind of end it in this sort of abrupt way. So what I would invite folk to do is, if you don't mind coming, like, we're going to like stay or like come a bit closer so that we can actually talk about next steps, because yeah, it's not over yet. So because we still want to hear if you're interested in continuing to maintain contact. I can tell you I have been to so many conferences in the last 20 years of working in this field where I meet amazing people, so inspiring, we exchange business cards, and that's the end of it. And I really, when we thought about this conference 18 months ago, we did not want that, which is why it's not a conference, it's a symposium. We actually wanted something concrete. And even we were discussing who to invite, you know, who's going to come as speakers, who do we want in the room. We were really careful. It wasn't scattergun. It wasn't like anybody, everybody, because, you know, we really wanted to have something concrete come out of this, because certainly, you know, in Hong Kong, we don't have the opportunity to meet with professionals of your expertise and experience out of in the region, right? So also that's partly because a lot of the staff at Justice Centre are not from the region. You know, we're from Australia, we're from the UK, we're from the US, so we might have amazing contacts in our home countries, but we are still building up contacts here. So please stay, and let's just end on that, just to see whether there is interest. And if there's no interest, that's okay as well. But if there is interest, let's see how we're going to do that. Because as I said, it's great to say we're going to do it, but let's actually figure out some mechanics, and whether that's just even a Google group, but somebody's got, like, we can maintain, that's absolutely fine. But I want to get a sense, what people want to take away from this. So that's just me. So please don't leave. So I'm handing back over to Lisa.
Okay, so looks like we do still have critical mass to continue on to the last item. So as I mentioned, the one thing we wanted to pull out of this is to identify an achievable goal that we can all pull together and do and commit to within the next year. And what that really should look like, and our vision for that is looking at the collaborations that we can build on this, looking at the international conventions that are available, the bodies and alliances already in place in the region, and domestically as well, and thinking together, look, how can we at least commit to a set, if not only one, achievable goal that we can all commit to as delegates and as participants, and work towards that together. And this is a conversation that I think will be valuable even in the content of having a conversation itself. And I really invite you first to participate in that conversation with the delegates in the room, and then we can all come together and have that discussion. So it actually works nicely that is now a trimmed crowd, because having this conversation will be easier, but I do encourage that you gather together so we can have this conversation, as opposed to everyone facing us type style. So I definitely don't have the answers to this question, but I very much look forward to sharing my views once we get into a tighter group of possibly, I think we should have this discussion in the smaller groups if everyone pulls together, and then we can talk to a broader group, just so we can first throw some ideas around and then discuss together. So yeah, if everyone on this side can move in, and then we can actually have a gathered conversation. just to focus on your discussion, if you can just talk amongst yourselves as to what resources are available to us. What are they? List them out or just throw ideas around, and then coming out of that, what is something that's achievable within the next year with what we have?